some of you won't have a clue, understandably. Basically, at the most basic level, we're here to set a baseline, a standard of the minimum level of asset information that is required, that can be reused, is repeatable. That's kind of our baseline job. But it's not just that, because we call it the Taskforce advisedly, because we're also open and ready to go out there into projects and advise people in live projects. It's an active, not a passive thing that we're well, I was going to say proposing, but we're already doing it. George, do you want to go into a bit more detail on that?
Yes, yeah. So I think what we probably should do is just if people could identify whether they've already had an initial meeting with us.
Good idea.
So because I don't want to use this valuable session to go over stuff that people have already are aware of. So, people like Neil, Lewis, I think we've agreed that we're going to talk anyway. I'm just looking around.
Is there anybody that hasn't or doesn't know the basics about what we're trying to do? Is there anybody out there? Just put your hand up. Don't be embarrassed. Cyprian, okay. Anybody else? It's fine. Just put your hand up. You don't need to be embarrassed. Just so we know.
Yeah. What I suggest, Richard, is that I've done sort of 15-minute sessions with Victor last week and various other people, Bex as well. So if you, it would be useful. What we're trying to do is have a golden thread aware group. So the golden thread aware people are a subset of what we've got in BIM in asset management, people that have got a particular interest in what the golden thread means. And what importantly, I mean, people like Tom, for example, have been involved in it for years. But what we want to do, Tom, is have a coordinated and consistent view of what the baseline is.
Yeah.
So that can be communicated to supply chains and get the basic information right. Because to be frank, we're finding that even the basics aren't being handled properly. And in some cases, it's because too much information is being asked for. And people aren't thinking. We had a session on schools earlier this morning. And as you probably know, and Bex probably knows as well, that on schools, there's a really rigorous BIM standard been put in place. And what the conversation that we had earlier is that the department's not checking it. So, or doesn't appear to be. So they're asking for very, very significant levels of asset information. But if the industry is trying to do the job, as it were, and there's things that they're asking for that aren't quite right or that aren't deliverable, when somebody's gone back and asked them why they want it, they don't know. So, and therefore, we as a group, as an asset information group, I think it's a good community for us to look at what good looks like. Yeah, not to dumb it down, but to get some baseline information. And then if people can deliver against that, then there's the next level up. And
it's the foundations, isn't it? It's getting the foundations right.
Correct. Yeah. And to make it auditable. That's the point.
So, okay, so given that apologies to Cyprian briefly, that everyone here is conversant with roughly our aims and what we want to do, What do we do now? What step are we taking now?
Well, this last couple of days, what we've been doing is identifying specific um, uh, aspects that we've been drilling down on. And by no means will everybody have been able to attend those. I mean, for example, we had one yesterday that was very well attended on data engineering and AI.
Mm.
And what we're trying to do there is to bring together people who are interested in that so that we can share best practice and also learn from each other so that we can then have a consistent way of maybe not reinventing the wheel each time. So that if, for example, we've got techniques of being able to, for example, generate door schedules from drawings, which is what Tim was showing yesterday, that would be a useful thing for maybe Joe to know how to do. I mean, knowing Joe, you probably know how to do it anyway. But the point is, we can then elevate that, and so that's one example. The others are we had another one on safety critical assets. Now, one of the main things that that people ask for is what asset information do you need? And the safety critical assets new group, it's a new group that we've set up. We're going to be tackling that. We're going to have champions of those safety critical assets. And yesterday we had people volunteer to lead those. We've got one already. We've got the ones that we've identified already. There's alarms, fire alarms, sprinkler systems, ventilation systems, in particular dampers and AOVs and things like that, and fire doors. So if you, as a group, know of people who are either installing them or manufacturing them or even designing them, remember we're coming at this, Joe, from an asset management perspective, so we don't want to boil the ocean by opening up all the amazing things that are needed now. But if we can look at things from an asset management point of view, if you know people who are experts in I don't know, emergency lighting or the other things that, I mean, what came out of the conversation yesterday, which I'm sorry if I'm rambling on here, but I think this is important to, it needs to be a conversation. The when I was talking with the fire damper expert, I thought that fire dampers were controlled through the smoke control system or the fire alarm system, but he said no. In many cases, there's a separate control system, and now in Regulation 38, there's no mention of controls, but actually that in itself is a discipline, isn't it? So it may well be.
Well, there was also that other guy, wasn't there, that was talking about actual airflow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was absolutely fascinating. Literally, an actual discipline, a very important discipline about how the actual air flowed.
Yeah,
which was quite extraordinary.
Air tightness.
But the point about this group is it's proactive.
Yeah.
So when we say if you know anyone, that doesn't mean if you've got somebody on your speed dial. That means maybe go and find someone. No, but it's true. Yeah. It's bring people in. Bring people in. This is the task force. The task force members, it's a proactive role. It's you're in there and you're doing stuff, and we're doing stuff, and we have aims to do that. So, George, that being the case, what are we doing now? What is the next step now? I mean, is everybody in this group a member of the Golden Thread Task Force just because they came to this meeting? No, they're not.
No. So what we're doing is we're creating this group that we've called Golden Thread Aware. So what we mean by that is that you're aware of our interpretation, our collective interpretation of the Golden Thread. Now, to do that, I need a one-to-one 15 minutes with you just to brief you on what we've collectively agreed, and also point you at the locations of where the guidance that has already been created and the new guidance is coming along. I mean, for example, we've done the surveys, Richard, of at the last 3 forum meetings, which have been very, very interesting. We've had some very interesting results
in those as well. A lot of interest.
Yeah. So we had a big article last week in Construction Manager, the magazine, the digital construction magazine, and we shared the survey results with with the editor, and they thought that was fantastic, because it's really from the ground. It's actually creating golden thread awareness or understanding where people are on the scale. So if you're interested in becoming a member of the Golden Thread Aware group, we're not asking you to do any more work. We just want to make sure that you're properly briefed of what our collective view is. The second thing is that we've got projects. So we've got the Watney Market project, which is a project, Neil, in East London, which is a 1970s market development, and we're actually going out to tender in probably 2 months' time to get somebody to do a scan and a scan to asset rather than scan to BIM process. And what we're doing, we're opening it up. So we're explaining to people what we're doing. And if anybody else has got a project that also requires an existing building, an existing complex to be scanned and turned into asset management, you can join into the group, you can join up with that, and we can learn from each other, so that we're not reinventing the wheel, because it's quite a challenging thing to do. We want to use the best brains to actually come up with methodologies of doing it. We've already had some really interesting suggestions from yesterday from people, and we can shape the tender. We've got the data center one that we did this morning. We've also got a healthcare estate that we're also doing as well. So we want to bring people onto that, and at some stage there's going to be some paid work from it, which you might be interested in bidding for and getting involved in.
Now, basically, in terms of the Golden Thread Task Force, yeah, we're looking at people who are Golden Thread aware to be involved and help set the baseline.
Yes.
And to become actively involved, potentially, in live projects, which potentially could be paid for.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, there's a few.
Wait. Right. Does anybody is anybody interested in that? Is anybody interested in actually getting involved in that or knowing more about it? Yeah. If you are, put Taskforce in the chat, and then we'll be in touch with you for George to do the 15 minutes. If you've not already had one, some of you may have, to do the 15 minutes to explain it thoroughly, exactly what you're doing, because there is a level of commitment. We need to know that you're at a level of awareness yourself, because the task force, it's not just a group of volunteers. It's a group of people who have a certain level of awareness and knowledge. And because we're going out, obviously not me, but the task force is going out as having a level of expertise to give advice and get involved in projects. Okay, so if you want to get involved in that, just put Taskforce in the chat, and then we'll take that separately. As I say, George will have the one-to-ones, maybe other members of the task force also will get involved in those. Well, there won't be one-to-ones, but those meetings, because that's what you'll be doing also. As we get more members, you may be doing some. We might ask some of you to do those meetings to make your own judgments on the people and to explain what's going on. It's your part, very, very much part of this. It's not us telling you what's happening. We're starting the ball rolling, but it's up to you to keep it going. Sorry, George, carry on.
No, fine. So what we're trying to do as well is with the BIM for Housing Development Group and the Operations Group, which Bex is part of, what we're trying to do is to heighten people's awareness, not just the people that come to the meetings, which are probably the top 5% in the industry, is other people as well. So for example, what we're doing is trying to improve the quality of information that's being handed over under Regulation 38, the fire safety information. And if we're all singing off the same hymn sheet, it's going to make it a lot easier for supply chains to provide the information. We've also got the Miro board that these are the sorts of things that I could tell you about if you don't know already when we have the one-to-one. But even, people like Joe, who is, closely involved in what we've been doing, there may be things, Joe, that you don't know that, certainly over the last couple of days, there's been some tremendous things that have come out from the discussions. In fact, Barry's just been contacted today by an architectural practice who is under the cosh for £3 million worth of penalties because the client has checked what was actually built and things are on the wrong walls. Now, you might reasonably argue, why is the architect responsible for that? But in practice, that's what was in the contract. They were supposed to produce the as-builts, and therefore the as-builts that they've provided are wrong. And what we're now doing is looking at effective ways of helping them through that situation. So I think these are the sorts of things that are coming out all the time from the conversations that we're having that we can then build on together. We can look at that and say, well, how do we actually address that? Are there ways of doing that? And this is a good example that that we've got where there's quite a lot of people put information into this now. This Miro board, for those that don't know about it, Miro is basically a platform that allows people to come together collaboratively and share knowledge and put together maps of how things are connected together. So we started this about 9 months ago, and what it's doing, it's getting everybody in the group to collectively interpret the regulations and ask questions and come up with their common interpretation. And I think that's a really important thing to be able to do, because at the moment, everybody's interpreting the regulations differently. And that's not very helpful, particularly if you are then a consultant that's then advising a client or a supply chain on what to do, because you could well be giving them contrary advice, not wrong advice, but contrary advice to something that they're working on another project and another consultant's told them to do something. This is the initial poll that we did that sparked a lot of interest. 92% said that people were not confident that they would receive the right fire safety information. Now, that's a staggering thing in today's environment, given where we are with things. And I can assure you that's not changed in the last 2 months. So we need to improve the competence and knowledge of the people that are producing that information. 72% said that they didn't think that the health and safety file and the O&M information that they've got on their existing building, certainly the health and safety files are a statutory duty, and it should be kept up to date. But most of them, by some way, the majority felt that wasn't being done. The just focusing on the fire and emergency file for a minute, they don't think that is accurate. And this is probably the most telling thing, they don't believe that their CEO or FD, the people with the purse strings, are aware of their duties under the Building Safety Act. So these are the things that I think we need to work on. And then, as I say, the last 2 days, we've recorded each of these sessions. I don't expect you to watch them, but we've got the recordings. We've also got the transcripts, and we're going to be producing summary notes from them as well. So we've got the safety critical assets. So again, if you know anybody that's a specialist in these areas, let me know. We did the AI and data engineering one, which was pretty active. We've got Watney Market, which is the one I mentioned, the data center, the schools, and then we had one just a few minutes ago on as-builts using 360s. So that's really, I guess, all I wanted to say on that, Richard. I think we now need to open it out to people to see.
Okay, so let's talk to some of the people who are saying they want to get involved in the task force, and let's hear what they think. We've told you our vision roughly. Obviously, you'll hear a lot more when you speak to George and discuss with him, and he'll take your ideas on board, and we'll take your ideas on board. But let's just Neil Turvey. You want to come on board on the task force? What do you think we should be doing? We told you roughly what we are looking to do. How does that gel with what you think needs to be done?
It gels completely. I think, look, we've got a lot of experience around the table. We've got a lot of industry knowledge. And one thing we've got to do is better prepare those that are coming up through the industry, and also to help them to understand some of the technical pieces, because we've all done our 9 yards. Hopefully most of us understand how buildings go together, how it all fits. And it's trying to explain to them that you can't just go wrap it up to the top. And then secondly, you've got to take the legislation, we've all seen these before, you've got to take it apart and see the constituent parts, and you've got to almost act as a project management plan on it, because you can't do everything, and you have to then have everything that you then need, but who is the best to do it? And it's always the key thing in this is having your list of what I would call the key holders, the people that can open the Pandora's box or the information that allows you to get down to that next level of detail, and how you can actually, and also to advise you. And I always say to people, when you bring a new advisor on or new consultancy, you've got to ask them probably 5 or 6 questions to test them before you even let them go on something. Because history around this room would say to you, it doesn't always work first time. And one of the best questions I always ask a consultant when they land is, who's doing the minutes of the meeting? And if they go, well, you are, then you say, well, there's the door, goodbye.
Yeah, good one. No, I like that one very much. Yeah, very, very good. As a consultant, I like that very much.
This comes from all of us. Some of us have got grey hair, some of us have got less hair. Some of us have still got some very good hair. Congratulations. We've got some aerodynamic colleagues on this call, which is fantastic. But this is what it's about, isn't it? And it gets to a point in life where some of us have more time because the kids are luckily going away. I can promise those that are younger, eventually they do. And then you start to not have to be taxi firm to everyone and everyone. And it's a chance to put your thing back in while still learning as well. And what ultimately anything of this kind of nature should be is a mutual learning society. And I'll leave it there with my four-penneth. Thank you.
No, that's absolutely definitely. And education and the passing on of knowledge is something we've picked up on a lot of our round tables over the last few years. And it's something we appreciate, we realise very much, which is part of the Golden Thread Task Force mission in going out there. That we're one of our big promotional things within Building Asset Management is at the moment is the 360 digital asset capture, because you can do that. You can go out there, somebody can go out there with a not very skilled, can go out there with a camera and then have the assets all tagged from a room. Somebody sitting at a laptop, they can look at those images and tag them. And that person will be somebody who's been doing this for 30 years and training some kid how to do it and imparting their experience. And this is something we're very big on. And this is totally intrinsic to what I was saying earlier about actually getting out there in projects. We're not just figuratively getting out there in projects, not just sitting in a desk having a meeting and coming up with a load of words, or even coming up with a load of baselines. We're out there in the market. We're out there actually doing it. And now I'm doing a George and rambling.
You caught me just before I was going to say that.
I know. I can see it coming. Right. Okay. So who else? Well, yes, Neil. Absolutely, definitely. Thank you. Who else? I'm going to pick on someone else who's, unless somebody volunteers, I'm going to come for you. Victor. Victor Snook.
Thanks.
Tell me what you think. So what do you think we should be doing with the task force? And why do you want to get involved?
I think from my perspective, I want to get more of an understanding of what the industry feels really. And because to me, it's all about consistency and making sure that we're all kind of aiming towards a consistent delivery of asset data, which I think from my experience is, is patchy, to be honest. The projects that I've been in with asset data.
So what will you be bringing?
I guess the experience that I have got, I've got some experience in schools, some experience on nuclear power stations, a little bit of experience, but I've just got a contract with a energy supplier. So one of the reasons I want to get involved in this is because I'll be doing all of the asset information for a big energy supplier. So it's the kind of power T&D, that kind of asset. So that'll be useful as well.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that I've kind of experienced in the past is the fact that a lot of the people realise they need to capture asset data, but they don't necessarily need and understand what they can do with it in the end. You know, especially around the kind of Kobe stuff. You produce a Kobe sheet because you have to, but it just sits in somebody's folder and you don't actually do anything with it. The only one that I've been involved in that has actually used that successfully was Heathrow. And that's because they had Maximo and they actually fed Maximo. Yeah, so you had like an end. You had like an end to the asset data. You had somewhere to feed it rather than it just being a tick box that you have to produce data. You produce it because it's in your contract.
You're ready to pounce on something there.
No, I was just trying to. We've got quite a few new people, so if you don't mind, Richard, I'd like to just skip around and just find out.
No, definitely.
Because some of the people I know already. In fact, actually, I spoke to Victor last week. Jonathan Hinton. Yeah. Jonathan, where are you from? Jonathan? This is always a danger, isn't it? Yeah. Matt Knowles. Matt, where are you from?
I'm from Wilmot Dixon.
Oh, great. Okay. So what do you do, Matt?
So I'm a digital construction manager within Wilmot Dixon in the North region. And we're just doing a lot of, well, primarily we're working on a lot of Department for Education frameworks at the moment. And just the whole process of a DFE framework, I just want to see how we can better improve the asset handovers of DFE framework, especially with the new framework coming in next year. Just trying to, get people on board and understand that the assets that the customer requires are assets that we have to deliver, and how we kind of, keep the golden thread of information and relaying that back down the line to the consultants and to the supply chain, and just saying, getting them on board that it is an importance and it is a requirement. It's not just us banging the drum for golden thread. There's a whole process and methodology of working that kind of backs up the entire system, and it's just want to kind of get a bit more knowledge on everyone else's opinions and ideas around the industry, really.
I think what you just said there is music to my ears, right? Because it actually reinforces the value of this particular methodology of working, because Andrew Simpson is there as well, and Andrew is from Bowman and Kirkland, and we had a session earlier, and Mo also was on it as well. So we're all they're both working on schools. Yeah. And there was somebody else, a lady called Eleanor, who was working on schools from Waits. I think. Trying to think.
Lewis,
I think
you got Lewis Jewell, who's
of course Lewis
Box as well.
Lewis is on here as well. So actually, we've got probably the A team from the industry. Matt, you can join what we're doing, and the point is, what I think it's a great example. Because I think what we've agreed in the last meeting is that what would be really useful is for us to, as a group, come together with a practical implementation of what good looks like as far as an asset handover for schools is concerned. And then we can actually collectively go back and talk to the department about that.
I think one of the biggest issues that we have at the moment is the amount of TAs, and I think it probably recalls back onto something you were saying earlier, is we've got 10 different TAs with 10 different interpretations of what the customer wants, and we're going down the port of call where we're going to stick with our guns with one TA, and that's our method of working.
Join our headache as well. Matt, sorry. Join our headache, exactly the same problems. And I think Lewis said the same thing as well.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think I mentioned on the previous call about schools how every TA that we work with has a different method of checking their models. They interpret the results very differently, and even down to their KPIs for passing the information, it's very different per TA.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that goes back to the golden thread. Well, how it links back is we need to make sure that the asset is contained how the customer wants it in one point of reference rather than 10 different points of reference. So it's kind of, if we're interpreting it 10 different ways, how do you keep that continuity between the customer requirements and what we're delivering if people can't have a singular method of working?
Yeah, I think the important thing, I'll hand over to you in a second, Mo, that I think the important thing here is that if we can actually get some standardization in terms of what is supposed to be being delivered, then it means that we can start to use a lot of the tools that we were showing yesterday, that we were talking about yesterday, to audit in an automated way. So that then it means that we haven't got the same sort of manual effort that needs to go in, and importantly, you don't get so many mistakes. Mo.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing the point around TAs and tier ones as well. Any tier ones, design firms, look at any few companies. Every single company will implement things slightly differently, and there are really valid reasons, I think, why that happens. But I think it's also partially because there's a disconnect between there's a gap there is the standard, and there is what is required, generally speaking, and then there is the way that I implement things. And the bigger the gap, the more room there is for people to go, I think I want to do it that way. So what I generally think the industry really needs is demonstrators. Like we need to go into the details of, if we were to do a Building Safety Act compliance statement along with the trackers across all gateways, and if we had EIRs, and if we had information delivery plans, and if we had X number of other things, what should they look like for a high-rise building? What should they look like for a school? What should they look like for each? And the more detailed we get, and if we then, a group of us agree on this is a good example, I'm not saying people won't deviate from that, but it makes it much harder. Like people are less likely to deviate when they see that something is working and has thought through the different elements. So one thing I've really wanted to do for schools, for example, is we know all of the documents that are required for a school. If we go down, including the strategy documents and the execution plans and so on and so forth, if we go through all of them and go, if we wanted to deliver the ideal school and utilize them data, and we want to do it from the very beginning all the way till handover, what does that actually look like in an ideal world? And have that as an example, really, that people can start looking at when they're actually implementing these projects. And I think if we do that, that removes the need for people imagining things. And when people need to imagine less, then they'll deviate less and we'll actually get more standardization. It won't happen by forcing it, but it will happen if we have really, really good examples for people to work off, has been my thought.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the things with that, what we've been trying to do to achieve that is look at how we can encourage people to use better standards in terms of information. So if I just show you a quick example of what we've already covered to an extent, but most of the people on this call may not have done, because we had BISA and SFG20 on the meetings yesterday and today, and they are very keen on doing things. But let's use common data standards properly. And one of the things is that 19650 is great, but it's far too high level for looking at asset information. And if you then drop down into IFC, for example, that probably comes up with a whole range of different information sets that have principally been put together for designers. So one of the things that we're exploring at the moment, Mo, is to actually use the government standards, which may not be perfect. I mean, the FMS 002 is being rewritten at the moment, but what it's got is a standard methodology for how you describe floors. Now, I know that might sound daft, but if everybody could describe floors in the same way, whether it's a school or a hotel or a housing association or whatever, that I think that would be helpful. Also, to be able to define how we actually hold the information about buildings and also assets, and spaces and things like that. So by doing this, it means that we can start to do stuff which can then be reusable in lots of different contexts. Now, it's interesting that as far as Regulation 38 is concerned, what we're trying to do is to say, right, at the very basic level, we need to know all of the asset types that are in the regulations. Now, that's not difficult to determine. And the most important thing is what's legally required. The contractors have got to legally provide this information in a clear and consistent way. And the customer, the client, has got to sign off that they've had it all. Now, we're not actually asking for a lot of BIM detail or even detailed product information. We're not saying this is enough, by the way. We're not saying that this is what should be the minimum, what is the optimum standard. What we're actually saying is that you need to know what the asset is, where it is, who made it, what circuit it's on, who installed it, who commissioned it. It's all common sense stuff. But actually, in handover information, we find that's almost impossible to get to. And it should be straightforward. So this is a baseline. This is an example of a baseline set of information. And when we showed this to the development group in BIM for Housing, everybody thought it was a great idea. And then the next thing, and Notting Hill Genesis said, we're going to implement this, right? And so did one of the other housing associations on the call. And we said, well, hang on a minute. Let's make sure that we're implementing it in the same way. Because if we don't do that, then a contractor that's doing work for Southern or Notting Hill Genesis or Peabody, they're going to be asking for different information, slightly different information. And it's going to be a lot easier if we actually, go through that process in a consistent way. Does that make sense? Everybody.
What's the process?
You're
saying that we need this. It's it's not a basic. Tell me how we do that. Tell me what we do.
Well, first of all, we want people to agree that they will implement whatever standard we collectively come up with, and then we can.
The standard we collectively come up with.
That I've just shown you there.
Who's collective?
People in the BIM.
In the Golden Thread Task Force, are we going to have a meeting and decide this? How are we going to do it? That's what I'm asking you. The methodology.
I guess I'm turning it around now on the group to say, how do we best communicate this to clients, to colleagues?
We haven't got a this yet. We haven't got a baseline yet. I'm asking you how we get the baseline.
We've got the baseline.
Where is it?
I've just shown it you.
Oh, right. So the groups buy into a baseline that's already there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'm sorry. We covered this a month or so ago, a couple of months ago. So everybody has agreed, or everybody that was on those meetings agreed with it.
Those meetings, yeah, but these are a lot of new people. That's what I'm trying to say.
I agree, and that's the point of the one-to-ones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, Richard, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
George, I know. I want to make it clear to everybody that's new in the group. I ask questions for the group rather than for myself.
No, absolutely. Does anybody object to the idea of having a standardized set of information requirements for fire safety? So we'll take that as...
George, I think that is imperative. I think it's a must-have, because all your hard work, and I understand sort of Richard's sort of concerns, which I think have now been put to bed. But those of us who've been listening to you and who understand most of these issues can only learn more by disciplining ourselves to focus upon the work which you have done and have this baseline. And it's a baseline which can always be improved upon. Nothing in life stands still. We're discovering new things all the time. So, but unless we have a baseline, unless we have general consensus, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to implement anything, or indeed for anybody to improve anything. So I think this is an absolute imperative.
Thank you, Bernard. And I would just correct you. the what you're saying I've done, I've not done it. What I've done is basically curated the knowledge of the groups that, I mean, certainly you've been part of those groups, Bernard, but what we're doing is interpreting and pulling back what is required. So I think that's what we need to do going forward. And we've got a rich source. I think one of the biggest challenges that we've got is we're overwhelmed with guidance. We're overwhelmed with legislation. And we've also got lots of people who are interpreting that legislation and interpreting that guidance slightly differently for reasons that are quite reasonable, but because it's very difficult if you're an expert to talk to somebody else who's an expert, to find somebody else that is on your same wavelength. And to a great extent, that's what I'm hoping this task force enables people like, Andrew and the colleague, I've forgotten his name, from Wilmot Dixon that was just talking earlier. Yeah, to be able to do that. Sally Ann, you were invited in, I think yesterday, by one of your colleagues. I'm not quite sure. Is that right? I'm sorry to pick on you.
No, I don't mind being picked on at all. Yes, I am the new head of building safety at MTVH. Just a few months in from a fire safety background. So I've worked alongside the BSR in the new regime with fire and rescue services and recently moved over to MTVH. So I've been invited in, and thank you. I'm just trying to really just get a feel for what the industry is looking at across all of these work groups and task force to do with the information. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time demanding that the information is there, and now I've got to work out how I'm going to get it to present to regulators myself. So that's a bit of my background coming into this.
You're very, very welcome, and I can also introduce you to a couple of other people who've got a similar background to you, actually. So that would be quite a useful connection. Do you know Lucy Keane?
I don't know, but yeah. I'm really keen to start meeting a lot more people around this side of the industry. I've obviously with an enforcement background. Yeah, I need to start making some new contacts this side. And yeah, so any introductions that you think will be positive, please, and yeah, pass my email address around.
Yeah, she's. I'll try and make a direct introduction because Lucy, she's with ABRI, and she's also come from an enforcement background. So that would be good to pull that together. Jonathan.
Hello, sorry about that earlier, George. I was having IT issues with the microphone.
No problem. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody from the group. I just wanted to answer your question about 8 minutes ago. I'm learning on some other aspects about your fire safety doors things. I come from an emergency lighting aspect. I sit on the ICL committee currently. I'm heavily involved in previous to the product development and testing of luminaires and emergency lighting. I see, as per one of your previous pages in your spreadsheets, the handover documents are horrendous. And, I've done lots of fit outs for large retail in my previous roles, supermarkets, hospitals. And I find it is staggering that where we think, and I've been a consultant for 10 years, where we think that we specify equipment and we go to site and we find that, it's nothing. So there's some value engineering has gone on at some point and we haven't been involved. And then there's not the lighting that we're emergency lighting that we're expecting in the buildings. And it's quite horrifying to see. So I'm sort of coming across and joining these groups really on that aspect of the asset management. And I see it going forward now, before, if I gave on my honest opinion, I had sat back from these. You requested, said, would I like to join? I'd sat back from it for a while, but now I actually sort of got involved in a little bit more, and I've seen some horrendous installations, and I thought, right, you know, this is really a big thing now, and that's my aspect and my approach to being on these committees, is to see if I can help in my area of expertise.
That's brilliant. So just to make you aware, what we've done over the years, we've created guidance which some of the other experts in the industry have helped with. So in this particular one, we've got a 17-page document that we've pulled together. I don't know if you know Peter Thorns from
No. Yeah,
but this was done originally, and the point is, just to everybody, and we've actually got this for 12 critical asset types, and we've gone through what risk does the asset mitigate, what do people do to assets to stop them from working, what information do we need to know about them, and what tasks and procedures are needed, what level of competence is needed, and how should products be changed. So just to give you a quick overview, just so you can see the level of detail, what is emergency lighting? And then what are the component elements that go to make it up? So it's not just an asset in itself, it's obviously a system that's made up of a lot of key components. What dependencies are there? So would you agree this is good, some good information?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about, again, traceability as well. I mean, we've all seen, I mean, I've been to a previous site where I was called to site where the client was saying, oh, not my previous employer, but previous, that our light fittings were catching fire, melting, and it's like, crikey, you get straight on in the car and drive to site, and you look at the light fittings, and what actually happened was the contractor had actually bought standard fittings and done emergency conversions of the standard fittings because they didn't want to buy the designed emergency light fittings of the manufacturer, and that was horrifying to think, and that was in an educational, student halls, that there was maybe a couple of thousand of these light fittings. So I've seen lots of different things in, and also, okay, as a manufacturer, some manufacturers, the timelines don't tie in with the fit out, whereas timelines change, and suddenly the manufacturer's caught out because the order's placed on them 11th hour and they're expecting to deliver the emergency lighting within the next day, and you just can't do that. And so some other emergency lighting gets bought from a wholesaler or wherever they want to buy it, someone can supply it. When you go to site, and at the end of the day, when you see the handover, and you just realize that they're not what was designed. And
Jonathan, I'd very much like to bring that together with you, so maybe we can pick that up maybe next week or the week after or something like that. I'll get in touch with you. That's brilliant. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for
Jonathan, have you put your name, are you on the task force list on the chat?
Yeah, I did earlier, but I was having IT issues, so I'm not sure if my name went on earlier.
Just put task force on the chat, Jonathan, and then we've got it nailed. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Just whilst I'm on that page, Richard, Mark Guilfoyle, where are you from? Mark?
Hi, sorry, can you hear me right?
Yeah. Lots of echo.
We can hear you many times, Mark.
I think probably you've got your speaker on.
Right, but you haven't got your mic on. You're muted.
Hi, sorry, I'm just sat in with Lewis Jewell from BIMbox. I'm a BIM consultant of about 3 years now. I'm just going through shadowing and trying to gain a bit more experience with what I've filled.
Okay, I'll pick up with you and Lewis separately then, if that's okay.
That's perfect. Fine.
Jacob Davis, have we spoken yet?
We've not spoken yet. No, only briefly in one of these meetings. Hopefully you can see me now. Sure. I'm an asset and program manager at BD Reside. So we're an Almo that have been in existence for several years now, but we're starting to take on more stock from Barking and Dagenham Council. So I've come in and I'm now in the process of setting up an asset hierarchy, and I've been actually using a lot of the BIM for housing toolkits as part of that. And I'm trying to combine as many different standards as possible, just so that we've got, consistent methodology of actually gaining data. Part of it, I'm trying to align it with COBie as well, so that we can bring on new build data in the future, and so that it doesn't just sit in a spreadsheet. So there's lots to be sort of cracking on with, and yeah.
So Jacob, we'll have a session, because I know Alozi quite well.
Yes, yeah.
And also Victoria Air, who's on the development side. So yeah, let's if we may, let's set up a specific session on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds very good.
Are you on the Taskforce? Have you put your name in Taskforce, Jacob?
I don't think I have, but I will do that now.
Well, assuming you want to be on the Taskforce, put Taskforce in the chat, and then we've got you.
Vasilios, I hope I've pronounced that.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. So it wasn't that bad. My name is Vasilios or Vasilis. Let me see if I can get the camera on as well. I hope you can see me now.
Yeah.
So I'm recently, like a couple of years ago, I became a head of digital construction in my organization. It's called CJSA. We are a main contractor in London, but we are a developer as well. My background is structural engineering. I'm a structural engineer, but I've been working as a project manager the last 8 years in HRBs here in London. So I have a good understanding construction, like from within. And now being in the position I'm now, I'm trying to find ways to actually streamline our processes of gathering data from sites, good data, because we are sometimes it's not all of the data coming from sites, but sometimes there are people within the sites that they are involved in gathering this data. So they need to be educated, have a little bit more awareness regarding the golden thread, all these concepts that they are, to some people, to a degree, are new or they don't know about it. So I'm trying a lot to get this information out to sites and develop our processes within our organization regarding the golden thread, how we're gonna cope with that.
Okay, I think we can have a direct contact, and I can bring Mo in as well, because Mo has been doing some great work on that using water.
I've talked with Mo before. We had some chats before, and we are exploring to work together as well.
Great. Well, that's what this sort of collaboration really is all about, bringing together people that.
This is my first meeting. I think it's really interesting. I've been browsing the sites the last few weeks, and there is a lot of interesting information in there. So it's really, really nice for this initiative.
Okay, so it's 4:30, and I know it's late on a Friday afternoon. Is there anybody that we've not spoken to that would like to just let us know where they're from that hasn't spoken yet?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, who's that? Hello, Hajar.
My name is Hajar. It's the first time I think I'm just speaking with you. I just recently joining to the Asset Management Monthly Forum. So I am a PhD student in the University of Salford. So my research is actually about the BIM implementation in the housing association across the UK. So what I trying to do, I try to develop a framework based on the current framework that you have, like the standards, the ISO 19650 and the BIM for housing, to just find out what the gaps is, and also from another side, from the people, process, and technology side, try to find the barriers and the gaps. And then I try to develop a framework based on that. So I am the first year actually a student. And I think so from the second year, as I need to just collect some data, I really, like to actually be connected with the professionals in the industry, especially the people who are working for the BIM for housing or the people from the housing associations, to collect some data from them. So it's going to be really great if we can have some meetings later, anytime, if you have some time, especially with Richard or with George or everyone who are actually interested, to have some collaboration regarding that.
That's great. We've got we've had a lot of students actually come through the BIM for housing, and BIM for housing particularly, who've actually gone on to great things. So I'm quite sure that if you come along to our meetings, you'll find a lot of things of value and quite unique things possibly to put into your theses. So very welcome to you, Hajar. Very welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so how are we doing?
I think we're doing good. Yeah.
I think we're doing very good. So next steps, right? Anybody, just a quick reminder, anybody who wants to actually not talk about it, but actually be a part of the Golden Thread Task Force, put Task Force in the chat, and George and maybe another Task Force member will have a quick 15-20 minute chat with you, and we'll take it from there. The next meeting for those members of the Golden Thread Task Force will likely be in September. We'll contact you obviously after the meetings. George, any final thoughts briefly?
I think also if people want to, I would suggest that people might want to look at the summaries of what we've done these last 2 days.
Absolutely, yes.
And also, if any of them, if you've got people on the call that are interested in data engineering or AI or these other things, we're not. It's important. Sally, for example. You wouldn't need to know how to use data engineering. I'm not saying that you don't, but if you've got a problem that you think something could be solved with, then you're very welcome to join the group, because what we're trying to do is the people that have got the problems and understand what answers they're looking for. They are very valuable to us, because that's the nub of what we're trying to get to. We've got lots of people, smart people, who are able to extract information, but actually knowing what the problem is and then doing something with the information is actually very useful. So anybody that's on the call.
Absolutely. Sally Ann, how many people call you Sally?
I am either way. Yes, a lot of people do call me Sally Ann, and a lot of people call me Sally, and I'm happy with either. Yes, obviously I've only just started coming to these groups, to any of these meetings this week. So trying to get a flavour of which ones are the most appropriate, which ones that I would be able to add value to. Is so yeah, Golden Thread is sort of really handled with our information team. So I think they're probably the ones that come here, but obviously Paul's in here and part of my team. So I'm still just trying to work out which one to
dip your toe into any of our meetings.
Thank you.
What I would like to say, Sally Ann, is that actually leaving it to people who are the information geeks like me is probably not a good idea, because the connection needs to be coming from you who have the problem, because they may come up with solutions that are maybe too complex, or they may not realize there's actually quite a simple way of delivering what you need. So So please keep engaged from that point of view.
No, absolutely. And yeah, so we've got a very big focus on obviously safety case reports and doing that side of it, of which the golden thread is a huge part of being able to produce that, because we've got to have all the information there. So yeah, it's just making sure we've got the right level of focus on in every direction to be able to get to those end goals, which is quite important. So yes, and any problems coming through with golden thread and updating everything, yeah, leaves us unable to produce a decent safety case report at the end of it. So yeah, no, I'm very interested in all of these meetings, so you'll be seeing me pop up. And
fantastic. At the end of the day, we are, part of our aim is to be a resource
collectively.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not talking about you and me, obviously.
Yeah, just on that, Sally. So just to on the Watney Market project, which it might be useful for you to watch that one, because what we're doing there, this is a project for Tower Hamlets, but they initially asked us to just do a scan and produce a BIM model. And I said, well, what do you want to do with it? And they said, well, it's principally driven for fire safety. Okay, what about building safety? Right. And they said, yeah, that's important for us to have as well. And then we said, well, actually, if you're going to do it for fire safety, you also need to engage with the small works team, because it's actually the small works team that often will run projects where they go through compartmentation. And then you also, surely if you're going to do this work, it would be useful to be able to understand what the ventilation is like in the building, because otherwise, it may be that you've got to revisit that and do mold. So the reason I'm saying this is that if we can, the approach that we're taking is to be the intelligent client, as it were, to be able to help people understand what's possible, because we're going to be going out to tender for surveyors to actually do a lot of the scanning and things. But what we want to do is make sure that we can brief them properly, so that we can find smart ways of getting the information that's needed. So I'd be very keen to get you involved in that, because I think you may be able to find that useful within a huge organization like Metropolitan. Because I imagine that your fire safety people are almost a different, I'm not saying they're a different silo, but
George, you're doing it again.
Yeah, I'll shut up. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So on that juncture, thank you very, very much. It's been a really great last meeting of our marathon, 2-day marathon, 7 meetings. It's been wonderful, and we're going to carry on. And all those people who put Taskforce in the chat will be contacted very soon. And you will all be contacted very soon, because once we get you, we don't let you go. So we'll see you, I'm sure, at the forum, our monthly forum meeting in September, if not before. Thank you again, and see you soon. Have a good August.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.